read D-Day as told by Bob Nobles together. Alright, you ready? D-Day arrived in the late night darkness of June 5th after receiving donuts and coffee from Red Cross Donut Dollies at RAF Station Fakenham. Bob Nobles and the rest of the men in his battalion strapped on their gear and weapons. Nobles also packed 4 letters from Bet. The men loaded onto a C-47 plane, roared off the tarmac shortly before midnight, heading for Normandy along with hundreds of other planes. The flight over the English Channel was uneventful. We were all thinking, Nobles said. A lieutenant walked the aisles, talking to everyone, trying to both cheer the men up and calm them down. But I can't speak. But Nobles did not appreciate it. I almost told him to sit down. When the red light by the door lit up the cabin shortly after midnight, Nobles and his 16-man team stood up and hooked their static lines to the anchor cable running the length of the cabin and checked the preceding man's equipment. Then the red light went off, replaced by a green one, and the men charged out the door. Nobles could see trees below him, but he did not have time to take it all in. By the time my chute opened up, I was on the ground, he said. Nobles landed in a farmer's field all alone, and immediately unhooked himself from his parachute. He then removed the reserve chute on his chest, which was blocking him from his rifle. He threw away his gas mask, correctly thinking he would never need it. Relieved of this equipment, he took off on foot until he came across another paratrooper. That's actually where I've got to with you guys, because I didn't read it yesterday, did I? Don't shoot, shouted the man. I'm from Kokomo, Indiana. I forgot the password. Nobles just laughed at the panicked soldier. Nobles had no idea where he was, but he was not alone. Most of his team of paratroopers had missed their drop zone because the unit's pathfinders had run into trouble. Pathfinders were specially trained paratroopers who jumped prior to the bulk of the unit to set up guiding lights that told the pilots carrying the follow-on troops when and where to drop them. But the Nobles pathfinders had jumped into the midst of the German 91st Infantry and took heavy casualties. The surviving pathfinders managed to set up only 2 signal lights. As a result, the regiment, like virtually every other airborne unit, was wildly misdropped. Nobles and his team landed 10 miles from their designated drop zone. It's quite far, isn't it? 10 miles. Wonder what happened next. Oh, you always want to know what happened next, don't you? Do you think this is a fiction or non-fiction text, and how do you know what clues are there? Remind yourself the words fiction and non-fiction. Fiction is fake, made up, story, fictional. So therefore non-fiction is fact, true. So like our explanation text, like non-chronological reports. What do you think this is? It's a story? Or do you think... I did tell you on Monday what this was.
Is it a mix?
Okay, you think a mix of bit of story, bit... It could be like My Secret Wartime Diary was based on true events, but it was made... The stuff around it, the drama was made up around it. You often see that on TV programmes, certainly they're based on things like The Crown. It's based on true events, but it's not necessarily an accurate representation of what actually happened at the time.
I think it's non-fiction.
You think it's non-fiction? Why?
Because it's all sort of real stuff that would happen.
It's non-fiction because it actually, I'm just checking back, it's a first-hand account of, So this is Bob Nobles actually landed in D-Day London. This is actually what he wrote. Now, it's only his point of view, though, isn't it? It's from his point of view. So it's only about him and his battalion. So he's not commenting on anything else that's happened because he doesn't know, because he can only comment on the part that he was involved in. So I think you're right. I think it's probably very much a non-fiction, but based on a person's account of it. But then actually, all non-fiction is based on a person because it's the person who writes it. So even your explanation text and your non-chronological reports, you're still writing them. So as long as you've got the facts right, then they're non-fiction. But depends how much you dramatise it. Okay, I'm on the wrong question. We are going... Oh, what clues were there why you thought it was fiction or non-fiction? Do you know, one of the things I thought as I was reading, especially that first paragraph, it's really missing punctuation and things, isn't it? I didn't read it very well. I tripped over words because actually there wasn't sometimes punctuation and some of the words didn't quite fit in the order you would expect them to be in. Do you know what I mean? I think it was after receiving donuts and coffee from Red Cross Donut Dolly's RAF Wokingham, Bob Nobles and the rest of his men in his battalion strapped on their gear. There's no commas or anything, is there? The men loaded onto a C-47 plane, roared off the tarmac shortly before midnight. There needs to be a comma in there somewhere, doesn't there?
It was after Falcon.
After Wokingham, yeah. I actually was thinking about the plane bit at the bottom. They loaded onto the C-47 plane, roared off the tarmac shortly before midnight. Kind of is all done as one bit. Any other clues? Yep.
It says like the date and everything, so they can't just make up a random date like say they did
And does it fit with what we know about D-Day?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does fit with what we know. And like you say, it's been quite specific. It's got the date. I mean, he doesn't reference the year because actually he's writing it at the time. It's almost a diary entry, almost, isn't it? Because I mean, he probably wasn't writing this as it was actually happening, was he? Because I'm not sure you can be jumping out of a plane and then landing in enemy territory and writing a first-hand account. Maybe in the evening after the day had happened, they might have had a little piece of paper or a notebook or something with him to write it. But, you know, he's not actually writing it as it's actually happening. He's not, you know, strapping on his parachute and then, oh, hang on, wait, I've just got to write my diary. You know, it's going to be his account after it happens. So it is going to be, he's not included everything that happened, but it's included enough. Kind of, I suppose, to remind him of what happened. So a bit like a diary in that sense. Okay, excuse me. We are going to be now looking at our long question, or a long answer, okay? So the question, or the LO, is to find evidence to support my answer. What does that mean? To find evidence. Where are you going to find the evidence? Under your table or your tray? Where is the evidence going to be found? On the sheet. Yes? On the sheet. This is the evidence, all right? You can think kind of P paragraph, but it's not necessarily got to be quite as full as that. So the question is, Nobles and his team didn't land where they were expecting. Do you understand what the question is? They didn't land where they were expecting to land. Now you need to make sure you've got the whole sheet, because actually the bottom is just as important as the top, because actually, I think the bottom's probably more important for this question, isn't it? Because what's the top half all about?
Him jumping off the plane.
Getting ready and jumping off the plane. The question is about... The question is about landing, and the landing is from that line on, okay? It's this bit at the bottom, when he's landed. So, do you agree? Nobles and his team didn't land where they were expecting. Do you agree? Yeah? Okay. So I used to write yes. Is your question all right? Double word, Miss Wakefield. Hang on. Oh, it's not going to be interactive. That would hope. Are you not just going to write yes, are you, at the bottom? No. Please don't. Use evidence from the text to support your answer. So think of your order of your P paragraph. So you need your point, your evidence, and your explanation. We're going to focus mainly on the point and the evidence. And you've got two ways of doing this. So you can either answer the question with 2 points and 1 piece of evidence to back up both those points. So those points need to be very similar, don't they? But 2 points that show the proof what you're saying, and then the evidence from the text to back up those 2 points. Or you can do 1 point and 2 pieces of evidence. What do I mean by point? Think of your P paragraphs, what's your point? Have a go?
Isn't like how you know?
Yeah, so it's kind of your point of view. Yes, I agree that Bob Nobles didn't land and his team didn't land where they were expecting. Because. Okay. And then that's 1 point, isn't it? And then the because, you need 2 pieces of evidence. Or, how did you make 2 points? What 2 points could you do? Oh, we're all half asleep this morning.
Nobles and his team landed 10 miles from.
Can't hear you.
Nobles and his team landed 10 miles from their designated drop zone.
So that's part of your evidence, isn't it? That's going to be one of your evidence. That's going to be part of your evidence. Anything else? Nobles and his team didn't land where they were expecting. Yes, I agree. They didn't land where they were expecting. I think the easiest way of answering this is 1 point and 2 pieces of evidence, isn't it? I don't think you can do point 1, yes, I agree they didn't land. And then you can't also then do, but on the other hand, you know, sometimes you write, but on the other hand, there's evidence for both sides. I don't think this answer lends itself to, but on the other hand, they did land where they were expected to be because, have you got any evidence to say they did land where they expected to be? No. So do you think you can do 2 points? No. You may have noticed something I didn't notice in there and be able to put 2 different points, and that's fantastic if you can do. But I think very much focus on 1 point and 2 pieces of evidence to back up your point. So yeah, remember we answer the question in a full sentence, so we incorporate the question in our answer, don't we? So we need to incorporate this in our answer. I agree that Nobles and his team didn't land where they were expecting. The evidence for this is, and then you can do the 2 quotes for everything. This shows that they were close but not close enough to where they were landed, where they were supposed to land. That make sense? Yes? If you can find 2 points, fantastic job. But I'm going for 1.